I find it a telling one, especially when you recall it was the Obama administration that trotted out hundreds of economists who supported the merits of stimulus. And now the very best among them clearly not stimulated. The bloom is off the Obama rose, and by a ratio of 3 to 1, their hope is for change. Now, let me be clear here. This is hardly a ringing endorsement for Mitt Romney. As one of the economists put it, Obama doesn't really understand business, and Romney doesn't really understand how to govern, so pick your poison. But the fact that most of the economists prefer Mitt Romney's poison speaks volumes about how so many economists have had it with the president's poison. They all cite the regulatory uncertainty hanging over business and the gridlock in Washington that's putting a drag on this recovery. Many seem to think that a change will do Washington good. As Brown University's David Weiss argues, Romney might be more likely to get Congress to do something, whereas Obama has shown he can't. Fellow numbers cruncher Alan Sinai goes so far as to say Romney is more likely to cut the growth of government itself. Well, hope springs eternal for a challenger, I guess. But remember, these are among the finest economic minds in the country, many of whom supported Barack Obama's prescriptions early on for this economy, until now. I don't know whether economists' shifting views translates into voters' shifting views, but it is noteworthy, little more than 24 hours ahead of the first debate, that for the biggest numbers nerds among us, the debate is now settled. Barack Obama's time is up. So, whether economist, then the voter, to market watcher Gary Kaltbaum and political commentator Hadley Heath. Hadley, what do you think of that?
Well, listen, we're obsessed with polls here inside of the Beltway. We like to poll doctors and lawyers. And
wait a minute, I object to that. I'm just responding to a poll that said we're not sick of polls, but go ahead.
Okay, well, we're looking at this, and basically what I think is it doesn't take a PhD in economics to show us the point. People outside of the Beltway understand that this administration's efforts to revive the economy have failed. It's that simple.
Gary?
Look, the President Obama looks nothing like the candidate Obama. That's why they backed him before then. Just remember, candidate Obama talked about pro-growth policies. He talked about lowering the deficit in half, not redistributing wealth, and not, as he said, hurting the taxpayer and going line through line, getting rid of fraud and things like that. I think these economists look at numbers. They see reality. They see $6 trillion in debt, more in the last 3.5 years, and they figure time to move on.
Hadley, you know, economists are fickle. In fact, I always say if they had 3 hands, they'd be right at home, because then they could say on this other hand as well. But having said that, they seem to have crunched the numbers. They seem to have looked at the weakness of this recovery and concluded maybe a fresh start is in order. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but does it factor in a smart money angle that we're missing? That the smart money seems to be saying there's not much money for this recovery to be had if things stay as they are.
Well, let's look at their records. We've got President Obama, who hasn't had any experience in the private sector, and we've got Governor Romney, who does understand what it takes to be a leader in the world of business. So, America, yes, we do need a new CEO-in-chief, and we also need someone who understands that business leadership means being able to broker a deal, working in a climate here in Washington where there's a lot of polarized politics. But Governor Romney is suggesting policies that Democrats and Republicans can agree. We need to simplify the tax code, flatten the tax code. We need to reform the regulatory state. These are things that will help business across the board.
You know, it comes at a time, Gary, where we have CEOs sort of hedging their bets right now, many market guys hedging their bets right now. So economists might be in that prove to me things will get better group. But what are those in the know who follow earnings, who follow their own earnings, and who follow trends, telling you? You're chief among them, if you think about it. I mean, what is it all of you seem to be seeing that maybe a lot of folks are either missing or not appreciating?
Neil, we just look at numbers, and when you see 1.3% GDP, when you see 8.1% unemployment, which is a fake number, we're really in the tens, when you see people like Mort Zuckerman, who I believe is an absolute genius, totally obliterating the policies of President Obama. Sam Zell comes out today, one of the greatest real estate minds out there, saying we're headed back into recession. You got to have your ears wide open and recognize higher taxes and more spending by a government is not going to work going forward. And that is the proposal. And the amazing part about all this is I am not hearing one word out of this president candidate Obama right now for the next 4 years about lowering the deficits. He says it every now and then, but there's been no wish to do it, no move to do it. And until somebody gets that done, you're going to have headwinds into the economy because debt kills.
All right, guys, thank you both very much. Here's another question, as long as we're talking about economists. What if it's worse than even they think it is? What if we're headed into another recession? Well, a lot of CEOs, as Gary pointed out, are certainly hitting that, or at the very least warning of an earnings slowdown, thanks to Europe and slackening demand there, and not exactly robust demand here. But what if this is bigger than the